Hello, my planner friends. Today we are going to make tassel paper clips for our planners, and or you can use them for really anything. And these are the items that you're going to need. I have 2 skeins of DMC embroidery thread. You can usually pick those up for under $1. And this is an example of a tassel that I made before. I have a couple of paper clips, a comb, and a giant needle that I have had for forever. So it just needs to be big enough to put the whole 6 strands of embroidery thread through the eye of the needle. So this one that I've had has been in a drawer and it's kind of gotten a little rough looking. So I'm just showing you how if yours gets a little bad looking, you can comb it out and give it a little trim and make it look better. And so I just push it all together to see if there's anything that needs to be trimmed off. And then for trimming tassels, you need a really good pair of scissors. These are my Tim Holtz. I got them for Christmas last year and I hardly ever use them. I keep them in their little case and I only use them for instances where I need a really good pair of scissors, like cutting off the ends of tassels. And so I'm just going to go in and very carefully trim just the little bits and pieces that are sticking up higher than other pieces, just to make it look nice again. And it kind of goes in a little bit of an arc as you trim it, and that just keeps your tassel looking good. Sometimes I have trimmed it off a lot, and then like this time I just trimmed it off just a little bit, just trimmed off some little fuzzy edges. And so then shake it out just a little bit, and then your tassel looks great again. I found another little piece and I'm getting a little picky about it at this point. Um, but yeah, so then your tassel looks great again and you're good to go all over again. So that's our inspiration, and I am going to start with the aqua piece of embroidery thread, and you just need something that you can wrap the thread around. I am using some sticky notes from my Cocoa Daisy kit. Um, one, because they're about the length that I want my tassel to be, and the other is they have those little notched grooves, which kind of keeps it from sliding around. You can just use a piece of cardboard or whatever you have around that is relatively flat and about the size you want your tassel to be. So I edited out. I struggled with this skein of thread. If you pull the thread out while the 2 little things are still on the embroidery thread, it will come out perfectly. I chose not to do that. This one was a little tangled and I thought that would work better, but it didn't. So I'm just holding the end of the thread with my thumb and wrapping the floss around my sticky note here. And I'm just going to continue wrapping until I use up most of it. The green tassel, I used a whole skein, but I probably cut half of an inch off of that. So, and it's a very thick tassel compared to some of the others that I've seen. And so I just left a little bit of thread there. So once I have that, um, I'm going to take another piece of thread once I get it untangled, and um, I'm going to slip it underneath the thread that is wrapped around the sticky note. And this is one of the places where I use the big needle. Um, and all I'm trying to do is tie a knot and get it up underneath there. And it's just easier to do with the needle. You could probably shove a piece of thread underneath there without a needle. There's another point where I use the needle that I think it would be even more difficult to not have a needle, but you could probably work around it. I'm pretty sure that I got this needle from my grandmother's house when she passed away, which was about 20 years ago, and it's just been hanging around my house ever since. And I use it for random things like this. And so I'm just going to tell you that my fingernails are too long, and trying to tie knots with these nails is ridiculous. And so I struggle every time I tie a knot. And so I tied it one time, and I should have tied it twice right there. And I keep pulling it off screen because it's easier for me to see it right there. So I apologize for these moments where I go off screen. But right here, I'm going to come back and I'm going to tie it in a double knot. I may even go back and tie it. I think I might tie it 3 times just to make sure. And then I'm going to trim off the edges. And um, at this point, you want to make sure that you've got all your uh, threads sorted out there, because you're going to put the paper clip around right where the knot is tied. And so you open up the paper clip a little bit and slip it in there. Sorry, I pulled it off screen as I did it. But you just slip it into the paper clip and then just keep sliding it around until you get to the point where, just like, pretend you're going to paper clip it to something and make sure that you have your paper clip, that you have it on the right end of the paper clip, because I have done this before on the wrong end of the paper clip. I think it was a bow I made, but I went to go put it in my planner and it wouldn't go in because I had it on the wrong end of the paper clip. So I ended up just tucking it in pockets because that was just such a silly thing. So now I'm going to tie a knot around the top of it just to get that top band where it wraps around, just to keep the tassel, well, to give it its tassel shape and to keep it stable. And so once again, I am struggling with these long fingernails, and I don't know why I decided that I couldn't spare any bit of this embroidery floss. I had to use the tiniest little tail possible, which just made it even harder to tie this knot. But it's part of the joy of crafting sometimes. Your nails get too long, and I'm trying to go a little bit longer between getting my nails done because I don't like going to the nail salon. I wear a mask, but I still feel a little uncomfortable about it. So I've just been going a little bit longer, which means my nails get really long in between. So I've got this tied and I'm ready to go. And so at this point, you want to be very careful. You're going to clip the initial knot that you put in there. But when you do that, make sure you don't clip any of your other pieces. And so I'm going to start wrapping this around to make that band at the top. And I have a piece that is just, somehow it didn't get caught up and it's too long, so I just had to trim that off. So I go to do this and it breaks. So welcome to crafting. And might I say, welcome to crafting on video. I will tell you that I am much better at crafting when I'm not videotaping it. So I feel like a little bit like Lucy as I videotaped this and trying to tie a knot, and the knot comes undone. Whereas if I'm just doing it myself, I kind of whip right through it, don't think much about it. I think I'm a little more self-conscious. So I just cut off the tail of that piece, but do not cut off the long end of it, because that's the end that you're going to use to wrap around and around. And your little tail that you have, make sure that you get that tucked in so that it gets covered as you're wrapping the embroidery floss around it. And so just keep doing that until you feel comfortable with however much you have there, and then trim it off. And at this point, I'm going to take the needle and I am going to put the needle right through the middle of the tassel, the band of the tassel right there that I've just wrapped it around, just to keep it so that it doesn't come undone. And so I'm going to wrap around, and once again, I kind of pull this off screen when I do this, and then I have the needle in my hand and I'm shooting it right through the middle of the tassel. I do that twice. Once I was off screen, so I edited it out. But I do that, I wrap it around, and then I shoot it through the middle again. And then I take the needle and I shoot it down from the top down into, so that it hangs out like another piece of thread. And that way your band won't come undone. And so then just trim off the edges, and then you're going to want to get your fingers inside. The idea at this point is to clip all of the threads, or at least most of them. And so kind of pull your scissors tight so that your strands will be more or less the same length. I mean, we're going to clean it up in a minute. So I do find a couple more here and there as I continue to work on this that I didn't catch. Um, but yeah, at that point, try to catch all of your threads. And I think that was a little piece of fuzz from the green one where I had trimmed it off earlier. So at this point, I try to kind of finger comb it just a little bit to get it all out. And each one of the strands of the embroidery floss is actually 6 small strands of thread. And if you like it big and chunky like that, you can. I like mine just to be individual threads. And so this is where I go through and I comb it, and all of those threads, those strands of embroidery floss become individual threads. And so I found another one, that a loop that had not been, the end of it wasn't cut off. So I just made sure that was cut off. And as I comb it, you can feel when you hit one that won't, you can't comb all the way through, and you can see that one sticking up. So I just go ahead and clip that to get it off. And you'll have a thread or two that comes out like this, and you just pull them out and just keep combing until you feel like it's pretty straight. Once again, with the video, the top of it didn't look good, so I decided to pull on it to make the top look better. If you look at the green one, the top of it looks perfectly fine. This blue one, the top looks like a hot mess. But, I'm just chalking that up to videotaping a DIY. I think that later in life, when I've been doing this for a little bit longer, I'll probably look back on these and laugh, and I'll probably remake this video so that I won't look like such a hot mess. But I am pretty new to videotaping, and haven't really been doing crafts for very long either. So, I mean, I've done stuff, but not stuff like this, I don't think. I don't know. I do kind of random stuff a lot. So, but I've only been doing planner crafting, paper crafting for about a couple years. Well, a year with this kind of serious decorative planner crafting. So there you go. You can see it. It's really jaggedy, and it needs a haircut. And so I am taking my really good scissors, and I'm just starting on one edge, and I'm kind of cutting in an arch. I don't even try to get up there close to the edge because the threads are all different lengths, and I can't tell where the shortest ones are, so I go a little bit shorter than the shortest ones, and I just kind of go around in an arc. And you can see as I got to the edge, those are very close to being the length that I cut it. And so I'm just getting that fuzz out of the way so that it doesn't get all up in my tassel. And then I look at it and I'm like, oh, look at that one sticking out over there. That's a big long one. So yeah, sometimes you go to the hairdresser, you come home afterwards and it's like that, and you're like, how did we miss that one? But it happens. And so yeah, give it another comb if you need to. Take a look at it. You can press it one way and trim it, press it another way and trim it, kind of like your hairdresser does with your hair. They kind of pull it in different directions. And then you can just kind of give it a look to see what, where you have pieces that are a little bit longer. And I kept having one that was not laying down flat. And so once I did this, I could see some other ones that weren't straight or the same length. And so I just went in and trimmed those off. And you can do that for as long as you want. Don't cut your tassel too short. You can always cut it shorter, but you can't make it longer if you cut it off too short to begin with. So just be careful with that. I've had that situation with my bangs before. It did not turn out well. It was the 80s. Everybody's hair was big, so I guess I cut too many bangs. So you can see your tassel is done, but it's wobbling all around the paper clip. And so to keep that from happening, I just take some tacky glue, and I have this turbo tacky glue that I love because it dries really quickly. And I'm just going to take the nozzle of the tacky glue, and I'm going to stick it down inside the top of the tassel and squirt some glue out so that there's some, a good bit of glue in there, but not so much that it's oozing out the center. And and then I'm just going to press it in there, and it dries clear, so it's not going to make any difference. And then I'm just going to set that down and let it dry. And so that's it. There you have a tassel, and it is good to go. You just need to let it dry so that it stays on your paper clip. And while I'm here and I have that, I did not do that with the green tassel. I did not put glue in it. So since I'm here, I'm just going to take a moment and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to glue it down in the center with the tacky glue. And I don't have a clear-cut hole because it's been a while since I made this tassel. And so I'm just going to take that glue and glue this one down. So thank you so much for watching my video on how to make a tassel. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel and click the notifications button so you'll get notified every time I post a video. And you are fully equipped to create a tassel paperclip for your planner. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye and have a great day.